Hello, it's me, Clayton. I just finished watching the Goblin Slayer movie, Goblin's Crown. Now, for those who don't know about the Goblin Slayer series, it's a series of light novels that inevitably became an anime adaptation in the fall season of 2018. It's about a man named Goblin Slayer who goes around a fantasy world doing what else? Slaying goblins. It happened to be a very popular series back in the fall 2018 anime season, though it did get some controversy for some of its content. So much so that Crunchyroll had to give a viewer disclaimer for some of its episodes, which is something they never had to do prior to this point. So naturally, the same kind of disclaimer was made for this movie. Though perhaps because or despite its controversy, that only made the series more popular. And this film happens to capture what a lot of people love about the Goblin Slayer franchise, but it also has one big downside that could take down a lot of the movie, and it's why I understand why it bombed at the box office when it first came out. Back when there was box office, after all. So, the Goblin's Crown movie takes place after the events of the original series, and it follows Goblin Slayer, Priestess, Lizard Priest, Dwarf, and the Elf Archer. Yeah, basically they don't have names, they just have class names, as they are sent on an adventure by the request of the Sword Maiden to find and rescue the noble fencer, who was off on an adventure to slay goblins with her own adventurer party before they were all killed off and when she was taken hostage. After saving her, the Goblin Slayer and his teammates have to find the castle where those goblins are stationed and take them all out. That's basically the plot. It's about as simple as you'd expect from the Goblin Slayer series, with a 25-minute recap of the first season, which drags a lot of the film down. Yeah, did you think the My Hero Academia films were a little heavy-handed with their recap footage? Yeah, they're child's play in comparison to this film, as the film starts out with 25 solid minutes of just recapping the events of the first season, when people who are seeing this movie probably already know what happened in the first season, so they don't really need this. But regardless, that makes up 25 of its 85-minute runtime, so it would have been an hour long if they didn't have the recap. My opinion is if they didn't want the movie to be that short, they should have just waited to be able to animate more rather than just go for the whole recap thing. But when that section is finally over, the movie does deliver exactly what a Goblin Slayer movie would entail. Tons of bloody violence, good strategic work on all of the various people involved, a bit of fan service when it comes to Priestess, Sword Maiden, Noble Fencer, etc., and a lot of goblins being completely irredeemable monsters who you can't wait to see get their heads bludgeoned in, their swords sliced through them, or just shot to death via rocks or arrows. Yeah, the series basically never portrays goblins as anything other than horrible, irredeemable monsters who you love to see get killed, and this movie has no exception when it comes to that. Therefore, the deaths in the film, while numerous and quite bloody, are extremely cathartic because you know there's no good goblin that hasn't already crawled out of the holes. And most of the voice cast who you loved from the first season, all of them come back for this movie, and their performances are about as good as they are in the series. Which is to say, their voices add a lot of personality to these characters who you never really learn the names of. The music is also about as effective as the original series was as well, with big dramatic flourishes of fantasy themes that you might hear out of, say, Lord of the Rings, when it comes to the score. And the battle animation is about on par with the original series, with a couple of really good sword fights added in with Goblin Slayer and the Goblin. and the Goblin Paladin, who becomes the main antagonist of the film. So outside of that one stretch of time, the 25-minute recap portion, the rest of the film is about the Goblin Slayer movie you'd want. It's not my personal favorite, but I can see why people would enjoy it. So that's why I'm going to give Goblin's Crown a 6 out of 10. See you next time.